Personally, I believe that Trump's governance will take a toll on China-U.S. relations in the short term, but benefit China in the long term. For Mr. Trump's chances of winning the presidential election, we had our predictions. I believe most Chinese scholars thought he would win, and I shared that view. However, the comprehensive victory of the Republican Party caught us by surprise. Not only did they reclaim the White House, but they also regained the Senate, giving them a clear advantage. The House of Representatives remained in Republican hands as well. Moreover, as we all know, during the Trump era, he appointed 3 conservative Supreme Court justices, resulting in the current Supreme Court consisting of 6 conservatives and 3 liberals. So, it could be said that the Republican Party had a major victory this time. This was unexpected, to be frank. It was a bit surprising. I believe this outcome arose due to several reasons. It could be because the U.S. economy is not doing well. From the data I have seen over the past 3 years, the wages of ordinary Americans have increased by 19.8%, which is a significant rise. However, when adjusted for inflation, real income decreased by 2%. A 2% decrease in real income is quite significant for the lower echelons of society. Actually, what ordinary people truly care about is the decline in their quality of life. However, the Democratic Party has not responded effectively to this issue. As a result, ordinary people are likely to abandon them. I believe this is one reason. When the economy is not performing well, people hold the ruling party accountable. Moreover, it seems to be a global phenomenon. This year, in Western countries, it's been a trend that the ruling parties have faced challenges in elections. The Conservative Party in the UK lost power. The Liberal Democratic Party in Japan faced setbacks. The ruling coalition in Germany was weakened, and France experienced a similar situation where Macron's centrists were weakened. It appears to be a worldwide phenomenon. Therefore, I believe the first reason the Republican Party won this time is due to these factors. The second reason was the Democratic Party's candidate's lack of competitiveness. Although Kamala Harris has a strong background from an identity politics perspective, being a woman of Black and Asian ancestry, which is favorable for identity politics or progressive politics, her competitiveness was lacking. Looking at her political experience, she has not governed any region or led any department. So she appeared weak in this regard. Of course, some friends might argue that previously, Barack Obama also transitioned from the Senate directly to the presidency and did well. One could argue that Obama himself had a good grasp of policy issues, as he had been through debates. During the Obama era, he faced strong rivals within his party, and through debates with opponents from both parties, he demonstrated a strong policy acumen. However, this time, Harris encountered challenges. For instance, during an interview with Fox News, she struggled to answer questions, When addressing substantive issues, she often evaded the questions or seemed indecisive. There were even instances where she struggled to speak when the prompting device was not in place. So indeed, she appeared to be too weak in comparison. In procedural terms, her nomination doesn't quite adhere to democratic procedures either. It's just a matter of state leaders giving a nod, so her legitimacy is questionable. Coupled with her weak abilities, overall, she doesn't seem to be a very qualified opponent. Furthermore, the Democratic Party has gone too far with identity politics, their policies leaning too far left, which has led to a disconnect from the general populace. Many have noticed this time around that not only, for example, Latino Americans, but also African American men have seen a significant drop in support for the Democratic Party. Additionally, support from married women for the Republican Party has greatly increased. While Harris might have captured the attention of young women, she lost a large demographic. Therefore, her strategies and policy positions were too left-leaning, with flawed strategies. As a result, the unexpected outcome emerged, with the Republican Party gaining such a significant hold on power. In the future, everyone will be concerned about the impact of Trump's policies. With the Republican Party holding such concentrated power, what will they do? As it stands now, the Republican Party will certainly leverage their power advantage to advance their agenda. However, if they push too aggressively to the right, it may spark a societal backlash. From Mr. Trump's existing statements, there are several things he is certain to do. Domestically, he is definitely going to implement large-scale tax cuts, particularly for businesses. The purpose of these tax cuts is to reduce the burden on businesses. As a major goal is to revitalize the American economy, with a focus on revitalizing the manufacturing sector. To revitalize manufacturing, he will cut taxes for businesses, thereby reducing their tax costs. Another crucial aspect, which could have significant global implications, is his intention to withdraw from the Paris Agreement and roll back many environmental regulations. This means that oil fields near the coast of Florida and oil reserves in Alaska will be exploited. This move aims to lower oil prices in the U.S. and reduce energy costs for businesses. Additionally, this development could benefit China, as it is the largest importer of oil. Lower oil prices would benefit China, but it may not be favorable news for Russia, as it heavily relies on oil revenue. Regardless of how it is presented, for Trump, revitalizing manufacturing is paramount. To achieve this, he plans to cut taxes, lower energy costs, and impose tariffs to drive out many foreign products through a tariff wall. This is intended to create space for American businesses. I believe that the concept is valid from the perspective of American workers, but when it comes to actual implementation, I think the likelihood of success is slim. When you impose tariffs on foreign goods, retaliation from abroad is almost certain. This could result in a decline in American product exports, thereby protecting the domestic market at the cost of losing external markets. Additionally, there is a fundamental issue in the U.S., a potential lack of adequately skilled labor, which is a genuine concern, you see? Manufacturing differs significantly from the general service industry. Revitalizing the manufacturing sector is not a simple task that can be resolved by merely reducing costs and imposing tariffs. It is exceptionally complex. You need qualified workers and a supportive system in place. Since the U.S. delinked the dollar from gold in 1971, it has shifted away from industrialization, resulting in shortages in many industries. Unlike in China, where various industries are well established, the U.S. has a long way to go in rebuilding its industrial infrastructure. In conclusion, at least for Trump 2.0, restoring the economy, particularly revitalizing manufacturing, will be a top priority. He may implement numerous measures, but my intuition suggests they may not be effective. To revitalize manufacturing, collaboration with China might be the key. By retaining certain advantageous sectors and partnering with China in other areas, he could achieve more success. His tariff policies could lead to domestic price hikes, inflation, increased interest rates, and challenges in repaying the national debt, which currently stands at $36 trillion. Therefore, while Mr. Trump's intentions may benefit the U.S., their implementation may fall short. The second domestic policy focus will surely be on cracking down on illegal immigration. I remember that during Mr. Trump's first term in office, he placed significant emphasis on the issue of illegal immigration, right? His approach involved preventing new entries and deporting those who were already present in the country. In his second term, he is likely to continue this strategy. To add a potentially politically incorrect remark, but one that I believe aligns with reality, I think Mr. Trump himself holds white supremacist views. Viewing America's future from a white perspective might be chilling, indeed. Because currently, white women in America only have 0.9 children in their lifetime, which is a very low number. In contrast, Latin American immigrants have an average of 5.6 children, essentially creating a nearly six-fold difference, right? Looking ahead, it's evident that the future will not belong to white Americans. with a ratio of 1.6. If I have one son and you have 6 sons, by the time we reach grandchildren, it's game over for me. My one grandson versus your 36 grandsons, and the trend continues to great-grandchildren. I have one, you have 216, and it goes on. Therefore, from his perspective, it's truly alarming. Hence, he will undoubtedly take measures on this issue, right? Preventing new immigrants from coming in and deporting old immigrants, so this is something he is determined to do, even though it will cause significant trouble. It will lead to a considerable backlash. Finally, his domestic agenda may have a significant goal, which is to restore traditional values. Did you all notice that, on the evening of the 5th at Mar-a-Lago, he not only declared his victory, but also announced his first task and policy after taking office? The abolition of the gender politics policies? He stated that God created 2 genders, male and female, and all other LGBT matters will be abolished. He made it clear that men will not be allowed to compete in women's sports, so the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics will definitely not be like Paris. The scenario of 2 men boxing against a woman will no longer be possible. By the way, we, the mainland Chinese, have lost a gold medal. In the women's 60 kg category, a woman lost to a man. And that gold medal should have been China's, but unfortunately, it was lost. So, he is determined to restore traditional family-centered values. Only then can the birth rates of white Americans rise, ensuring the future of the America he envisions, predominantly white. However, I estimate that this kind of value adjustment will stir up significant controversy. In any case, due to time constraints, I deduce that at least in his domestic policies, Trump 2.0 will focus on 3 main tasks: revitalizing manufacturing, cracking down on illegal immigration, and restoring traditional values. From the perspective of the MAGA movement, these actions are necessary. But from the opposition's standpoint, it's akin to the end of the world. Therefore, the future of U.S. domestic policy will undoubtedly be exceedingly complex. As foreigners, we are concerned about their foreign policy. I estimate that a key characteristic of their foreign policy will be a return to isolationism. The strong isolationist stance in American history was replaced by internationalism after World War II, but now they are reverting back to isolationism. The general trend is to reduce America's responsibilities, decrease its financial burdens, and shift the burden onto allies, which means that American allies are in for a tough time as each one will have to pay up. Additionally, they will certainly engage in trade wars, imposing tariffs not only on China, but on all countries. While he mentioned a 20% tariff for all countries, the tariff on China will be 60%, leading to a bloody battle in the field of trade. Globalization may experience a setback, which is something we can anticipate. Furthermore, the resolution of global issues will be affected. There is a high probability that they will withdraw from the Paris Agreement, leading to the breakdown of cooperation on transnational issues like climate change, public health concerns such as SARS or COVID-19, transnational crime, cybercrime, and even space-related matters. I presume these issues will be put on the back burner, which the whole world will have to contend with. His allies will likely be trembling in their boots. They will face criticism, financial demands, and increased responsibilities. Additionally, there are 2 issues that everyone is particularly concerned about. One is his claim to swiftly resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but in reality, it is quite challenging. He has likely underestimated the complexity of this issue. I believe he will, in some sense, facilitate negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. But whether a resolution can be achieved remains uncertain. Currently, due to the lack of details, it's like he's boasting when he mentioned solving it in 24 hours. We can only speculate. My guess is that he may aim to assure Russia that Ukraine will not join NATO, because Russia's bottom line is that Ukraine remains neutral and does not join NATO. Ukraine must serve as a buffer zone between NATO and Russia, a concession that may deal a significant blow to Ukraine psychologically. However, in order to appease Russia, I believe he may agree to this arrangement, as he has the capability to enforce it, being the leader of NATO. Another possibility is that he may tacitly allow Russia to keep Crimea and eastern Ukraine, accepting the current occupation as the status quo. A ceasefire could be established, eventually forming a European version of the 38th parallel between Russia and Ukraine. This may likely be the direction in which things are headed, at least from his perspective. He may demand that Russia cease further military actions and ensure that their troops do not cross west of the Dnieper River. This could help reassure neighboring countries of Ukraine's security. He may aim to resolve the conflict in this manner, but whether he can actually achieve it remains uncertain. The establishment factions within the United States may not necessarily agree, and European countries may also have reservations. Therefore, while his idea of resolving the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours sounds promising, whether he can actually deliver remains to be seen. We can only wait and see. I do have some concerns about the Middle East issue. He may escalate tensions because why? It seems like he has grown closer to Israel. In his previous term, he moved the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which violated United Nations resolutions. But he did it anyway, so the Israelis are particularly fond of him. I believe this time he will increase support for Israel while exerting greater pressure on Iran. So, Iran must be feeling a bit uneasy now. Another prediction is that he will pressure countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait to align with Israel, so overall, his approach seems more favorable towards Israel. However, whether his strategy will be successful remains uncertain. Iran will surely resist this pressure. Whether Arab countries will comply with his directives is also uncertain. In conclusion, he has introduced uncertainties into both the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which are worth observing. Ultimately, as a Chinese, we certainly care about the impact of Mr. Trump's 2.0 version on the conflict between China and the United States. Personally, I believe that Trump's governance will take a toll on China-U.S. relations in the short term, but benefit China in the long term. This is my perspective. In the short term, he is likely to intensify pressure on China, as he has announced a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods, with certain products facing tariffs of over 100%. Thus, we are undoubtedly facing greater pressure. However, in the long run, because he tends to act alone and even penalize his allies, this works in China's favor. In my own view, in terms of a one-on-one confrontation between China and the U.S., we are not afraid of the United States. In terms of actual production capacity, China has already surpassed the United States. According to exchange rates, our GDP is 65% of the U.S. GDP, around 2/3 of the U.S. However, based on purchasing power parity, PPP, we exceeded the U.S. back in 2014, as per data from the CIA. Furthermore, in terms of actual output, China surpasses the U.S. by an even wider margin. China's steel production last year was 1.35 billion tons, while the U.S. produced just over 60 million tons, less than 70 million tons. We are nearly 20 times the output of the U.S. In addition, our annual cement production is 35 times that of the U.S., and our shipbuilding output is 232 times that of the U.S. There is simply no comparison. Therefore, in my opinion, in a one-on-one scenario between China and the U.S., we are not at all intimidated by them. However, if the U.S. utilizes its entire alliance system and leverages the international system, China may find itself in a disadvantaged position. One advantage of Trump is his disregard for allies, relinquishing this strategic advantage. This is actually quite beneficial for China. Therefore, my intuition tells me that Trump's 2.0 version will certainly have an impact on China, affecting other countries as well. The impact on China may be more significant. Nevertheless, I believe that China is well equipped to handle whatever comes its way.
没有问题。